Alrighty, welcome everyone. I'm Teeaboo, and I am happy to announce that Natsume Yuujinchou is no longer the biggest loser of polls on my channel in its history. Finally, Natsume won a poll, and I know that a number of you are going to be very, very happy about that. Some of you might not care. Some of you might be miffed or pissed because it's a long show. I'm pretty happy about it. I'm pretty excited to watch Natsume. It seems like an interesting kind of show, and seems like something that we're going to have a lot to talk about at some point. We'll see. Okay, before we go ahead and dive into details and stuff, I want to do my little spiel early so that people know what the fuck they're getting into, right? Hi, I'm Teeaboo. I make videos, make reaction videos. They're also kind of more than reaction videos. I do a lot of discussion at the end of each episode. I like to dive into things in depth, whether that be animation or writing or story or composition or the art or the whatever. I like to dive in deep. And if I can get philosophical with it, if I can attach the things that occur in an episode with things in my life or things that I understand or think that I understand, which is probably more frequent because I'm actually an idiot, by the way. If I can try and add value to it and connect it to other things, I think that's important. And that's kind of what my goal is going forward with pretty much every show that I watch, but with a show like Natsume, probably in particular, but we'll get to that when we talk about my expectations for this show, which should be an interesting section on its own. So, spiel. Natsume is going to be an early access show, as are all of my polled shows. Things that are airing seasonally, not so much, but shows that win polls, they go on early access. That means that when any video in the Natsume series goes up on YouTube for public and stuff, the same day, another video, the next one, will be going up on Patreon. So if you want to go and grab that, you can totally do that. It's $5 a month to get the early access stuff, and it's chill. If you just want to jump into the Discord and chat with people who also care about Natsume, there are more than a few of them, and you can do that as well via the Patreon. It costs $1. And also, I don't, like, this is sort of a not very hidden secret, but I don't really kick people from my server, so like you can kind of cheat the system by paying $1 and then never leaving the server. Just saying, if you really want to, it's like a dollar for lifetime access. Anyway, that's enough of the shill stuff. So spiel wise, what should you expect? Well, there will always be two versions of each reaction. There will be a picture-in-picture version with the video up in the corner, and you can find that linked in the description. At present, I'm having like some problems with where I'm hosting my files just because Mega is, my account is currently in limbo because of copyright stuff. It will be resolved soon. I'm not super worried about it, but still it's kind of iffy. So just look for the BitChute, Mega Drive, Pixel Drain, whatever I put there, links. Usually I would recommend not using BitChute unless you don't have another option because they re-encode down to like 360p and it's awful. So just use Mega if you can, download from there. I know that the data cap sucks, so I'll try and put it elsewhere as well, but we'll figure it out. And then there will be the timer-based version up on YouTube. The timer-based version is pretty darn copyright safe. It doesn't put too much copyrighted content into the actual YouTube video, and so they're very rarely flagged or problematic or whatever. And it'll just be a timer, and there will be a beep beep timer at the very beginning. So it'll go boop 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 beep, and it'll count down from -5 to 0 on the 0 and the green light, and the beep is when the episode starts. So if you want to sync up your own copy of the episode so that you can like full screen it and stuff and minimize my ugly mug, you can do that and just listen to me as a commentary track. Whatever's most convenient for you. My whole thing is I want to get my videos out so that you can watch them in a way that you want to watch them, and I don't want them to get deleted or get my channel deleted. That's like my whole thing. Okay. I think that's pretty much it. Picture-in-picture versions, timer-based versions. Timer-based versions will have discussion at the end where we go through and like dive in and sometimes frame-by-frame stuff and skip through the episode, make sure we didn't miss anything and whatnot. Cool? Cool. So if you want that stuff and you want to watch the picture-in-picture version, you can go and watch that at the link and then come back for the discussion, whatever you want. Usually also some people, depending on which series it is, some of my patrons or subs will put timestamps for when the discussions start in the comments. So if you wait a couple days, those will probably be there, which is helpful. I'll see if I can remember to like try and pin those so that you can find them more easily, but I'll probably forget. Okay. Whew. So that kind of segues us into what you should expect from like each week. I don't stick to a rigorous 1 episode per week schedule. I know a lot of reactors do. I don't really do that. I play things by ear based on like how I feel during the day and what kinds of content we end up watching and whether it ends up being like an hour of discussion or not. So I play things by ear. For most series, I end up settling around 2 episodes per week. Usually for the episode 1 of a series, I'll hold back and just do 1 episode because that's where all the setup occurs, and we have to like paint out the structure of the story in broad strokes and get an idea of what we're in for. It's just a flood of new information with like, oh geez, get used to the color design, get used to the animation style, get used to the quality, get used to the blah 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 blah, all the things. Okay. Um, but that also segues us into my expectations for this show, because episode count has a lot to do with the structure of the show. If it's structured in like little arcs, then maybe watching them in little arcs is the best way, like we did with many of the Monogatari arcs, where it was just not reasonable in my mind to watch 1 episode of a 4 episode arc when I could just blast through all 4 and watch it kind of like a movie back to back and discuss the whole thing in continuity, because they don't make sense without the rest. Natsume, however, from what I know about it, we've got this like list of friends and this boy, and he's central. And the way it seems from all the promotional imagery, it's centered around him, but focused on individual events, episodic. And the other thing is that I've heard Natsume spoken in the same breath as shows like Mushishi and Holic, which follow similar structures, where it's a character going through a series of adventures where they come across a bunch of different little episodic lessons or morals or interesting things or conflicts that they have to resolve within the context of 1 episode, with the occasional slightly longer 2 or 3 episode arc. And then overall slow progress for the main character. The other thing is that Natsume came out in 2003. The manga did, and that's important context for knowing like what kinds of mangas were popular at the time, and that's the kind of thing that would fit. So I'm expecting episodic adventures. I know that yokai are involved. Yokai are interesting because they're essentially infinite, and you can essentially invent them if you want to. Just like you can make a spirit for whatever situation you want to create a story around. And that makes them an extremely valuable narrative device for a serialized story like this, especially one as long ongoing as Natsume has been, because there are 6 seasons of anime, and I assume more of manga, plus movies and OVAs and stuff. So that's a lot. And that means that we need some kind of repetitive structure. And that can be a good thing. It can lead to some of the best kinds of concise storytelling possible. And a vast variety of different types of lessons and morals and even tones and vibes and aesthetics and styles and things. It can also be grating if it's not done well. If the episodes don't feel different enough from each other, if it feels too much like we're in a Haruhi Endless 8 loop where we're just doing the same thing over and over with different trappings and different characters, but it's essentially the same and the lessons don't have weight to them, then it'll probably get grating. That said, because so many people are invested in Natsume, I have to imagine that it's not going to get very grating, or that the author has the presence of mind to change things up, either once the story gets to a point where that's necessary, or once the popularity of the story gets to a point where it's possible to forego the safe sticking to the formula and shake things up. That's my expectation. I expect episodic adventures, maybe a couple of miniature arcs, little multi-episode arcs and stuff. Episodic Aesops, I expect that episode 1 will lay out the broad brushstrokes, the like primer layer. And the first adventure that we'll probably do will be the first yokai, which will probably be the cat that's in every promotional image. That's my guess. Yeah, so I expect it might be formulaic to almost a fault until the series kicks on a little bit more. Maybe season like 3, things will really shift. We'll see. So yokai, Mushishi, and geez, we're getting to almost all of it. So it's a little bit of an older show. It came out, I think, a year-ish before Spice and Wolf 2, and by the same studio, by Brainspace. So that gives me a bit of an idea of what kind of quality we should be expecting. Spice and Wolf 2 is not the most beautiful looking show. It's okay. It's good enough. But it's by no means what I would call utterly gorgeous. I fully expect that Natsume will accelerate in quality as the seasons go along, and my expectations for season 1 are fairly low. I'm leaving them low because, it's an initial foray into the manga. the author doesn't necessarily have their story down pat completely. I will be more lenient about little flubs on that front, and I'll also be more lenient about lack of budget on the animation side of things, because it's the first season and it's testing the waters, right? There was already popularity around the manga, of course, but it's the first season of the anime and they're not sure. So I don't expect that they're going to be throwing tons and tons of money and time and effort into it. They're going to be going for good enough, and that's good enough, and I'll be okay with that. I will still probably point it out. If it seems like I'm dwelling too much on the negative, let me know, but I'll probably stand by what I say. We'll see. Okay, and then I think the last thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to go through some of the images, because there are images available on Mal, and they're promo images. And I've got the ones for Natsume Season 1, and they're all interesting, I think. I think there's actually quite a bit that we can glean from them. So, most of the images contain 3 primary things. Cat, Natsume, book. 3 things. They're in almost every image. Sometimes the book isn't present, but we can assume that it's like being held by him out of frame or is elsewhere. But Cat's always there. Natsume is always there. Main character, of course. There are a couple of frames where there are other characters, one of which is repeated. She's a little girl with seemingly cat ears who wears a hat. She's really cute. Obviously partially monster, partially yokai or something, but no idea what. She's pretty cute though. I like her design. In a lot of the images, Natsume is either like, well, how do I put this? Okay, in 1, 2, 3.5 out of 8. In 3.5 out of 8 of them, Natsume is very clearly walking on a path. In 2 of them, walking away from us while turning and facing us, looking backward. Reminiscence is a thing that makes me think of. The other thing that seems to infect every one of these scenes, but most especially the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th image, which is at night with a shrine gate in the background, with Natsume in a kimono just draped over his school uniform, his foot dangling into the water, a ripple, a reflection, and the cat next to him. As he's like gazes into his own reflection. This one in particular screams somber, melancholy, bittersweet, reminiscent, nostalgic, thoughtful. And when I combine those ideas or those thoughts with the feelings that I get from the rest, they're interesting. Natsume doesn't emote much in these images. He's rather stoic looking, usually with his mouth slightly open, kind of Ikemen style, but not too harsh on it or not too crazy. But kind of peaceful is the word that I would choose. But it doesn't seem right. It seems like there needs to be an inherent contradiction in the phrasing that I choose. Like peaceful melancholy, you know? Or resigned stoicism. Like there needs to be some kind of a negative and positive mangled together to make the faces that we see from him and the scenes that we see him in make sense. But there's the path. A lot of the paths are moving upward, or at least one of them is, toward a gateway. Lots of stairs to climb, directional but also looking back, guided by the cat and the book. That's kind of a lot. That's some interesting stuff. There's one that has an okami, a big wolf, and it has the girl behind him, who I assume is his grandmother. That's all I've got. I don't know who the black-haired character is. Cool. Okay, other things. Brainspace, fine studio, solid. Director, I just forgot his name, but I had it. He's super prolific, did Bakano Durara, a bunch of other Brainspace stuff. It's Takahiro Omori. Yeah. Super good. Went through the rest of the staff, and there are a bunch of pretty cool people in there. And Hiroshi Kamiya is the main character, so that's neat. It seems like from more of my channel's run than not, Hiroshi Kamiya has been a voice every week. It's weird. Anyway, I think that's everything. I think that is all that I want to talk about at the beginning of Natsume. And yeah, I know it was like 20 minutes of talking. Sorry. But it's the beginning of a series. Gotta do it. Let's fucking watch this thing. Been waiting for this for months and months. So, Natsume Yuujinchou, Season 1. Which version did I download? I downloaded the CYC version. It's large. It's maybe bloated. It's Blu-ray 1080p FLAC. Not necessarily necessary. If you want the exact same copy that I'm using, that's the version that I'm using. If you want to download a smaller one, use that. Do whatever you want. But that's the one that I'm using, so that you know. I was informed that it's probably the best option, and also is consistent throughout the entire run of the series, so that's what I'm going to grab. I have episode 1 of Natsume Yuujinchou Season 1 up and ready to go. It is sitting at 0 seconds. We're using Japanese audio, English subs. I've got it up. There will be 2 versions of this reaction video. You can find a picture-in-picture version with the video up there, linked in the description, and a timer-based version up on YouTube. If you would like to do a syncy thing and sync up your own copy of this episode with the timer-based version, you are welcome to do so. Just get your copy ready because the beep beep timer to count you down will be coming at you now. Okay, straight into an OP. Kind of dates the show, doesn't it? God, this needs to be like an inch back. I'm clipping just slightly. Mm-hmm. You're hiding your weak side. Going blue. Turn around. No. She disappears when he opens his eyes. Okay. Hello, Kit Kat. Is the Kit Kat the doggo? I guess so. Oh, hello, lots of yokai. That is a lot of characters. Oh, that makes sense, because they're going to be episode... Okay, there's our book. I don't know if I like that cat's eyes. It's kind of creepy. We're in the cat. We're in Natsume. Natsume. Oh, he's hearing this. Got it. The Cat and the Book of Friends. Was that in media res back to present? Oh, okay. Just running from monsters you can't see. Hiroshi Kamiya doing a younger voice. Wow. Wow. That's interesting. That's not just wind. No, wind. That was a big invisible thing running by. Okay, isolated. Because he's weird. Because he sees ghosts, kind of. Ah. Sees it as a burden. That was a cool shot. Now they're getting genuinely antagonistic. Shrines are safety? Not quite. Don't think so. Return what? What does she take from you? Oh. Your name? Oh. Names have... Okay. Names have power. Cool. So equivalent to like binding a devil in D&D. All right, cool. We're good. Flashy backy? Yep. Takashi no. Oh, but there are others here. Right. I don't think so, bud. Ow. Wow, that was nice. 445 wipe. How it disappears as he walks past it. Selling that it's maybe he's doubting himself. Oh, hello. There's our path. And they're stuck at the... Oh, that's bad. Oh, that's bad. That's a barrier. That's the Kit Kat. 100%. That's the Kit Kat, right? Yeah, we're making it. We're making it really intimidating. Yep, it's the Kit Kat. Hello, Meowsers. Oh yeah, yeah. We're playing it up. And Kit Kat. Hello. Meow. But the power is really there. Yeah. Be afraid. Oh, that's gonna be its voice. All I could think is Sam Riegel. It's on, motherfuckers. Hmm. They keep calling him Reiko. Same smell or something? Nope. Gotcha. It does make sense that yokai wouldn't probably care. Right. Why would it matter? Wonder if that's gonna be elaborated upon. So, cast out, isolated, misunderstood. So, being special leads to being an outcast, which leads to being alone, which leads to being damaged, which leads to causing pain against all the spirits. Already we have a core message of isolation, marginalization, otherization, and like percolating out pain that is instilled upon you by being rejected by society because you're different or feel different. Okay. Been running. She's really sweet. It's a little much, but she's sweet. Can't hate it. Still, let me out of here. Mm-hmm. Does he really feel like you can share any? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. No need to hold back. Oh, if only you knew. Okay. Oh. Yeah, who is she to you? I think she might have said. I missed it. Okay. And she left a lot here, including the book, wherever it is, whatever it is. Yep. Calligraphy? Names? Nope. Oh, wow. Alright, need that time stamped. Oh, he's alive. And the reality is... he beat him? That easily? Guess he beat himself. Was that a cat fart? What? Well, of course. Seems like a cat. It's just my instincts taking over. Why would cats eat watermelon? Okay. You're stuck with me. Oh. I guess he's eating watermelon. Please exposit. Oh. And they're stolen from them? That's why it wanted him to give it back? Huh. But she took a beatdown method. But she still called it the Book of Friends. Okay, and that power has been passed on to you, but you'll use it in a very different way. Suddenly you have power over sentient entities. Extremely. Oh, that's a wrinkle. I don't buy it. Yes. Yep. The cat is growing on me. Freedom and safety. Oh, yeah. That is not a human being. Nope. Not Reiko. Please close your mouth. Hi again. Jeez. Yeah. The crowd is just gonna grow behind him, isn't it? What will you need to do? Find Nyanko's name in the book and order him to defeat them? Or find the name and order them to not hurt him? Or... Yeah, why do you want it? No, fuck off. No, you remind me of Dimple a lot. And I think you want that power for yourself. I don't trust you completely, Nyanko. Henshin! Okay. Nyanko is the Okami. Yeah, there we go. Very much like Dimple. Yeah, totally. No hesitation, just like, yeah, duh. It's super cool. Find his name. He's got the same spiritual powers, though. Yeah. He just doesn't like fighting. Okay, decision point for Natsume. Taking responsibility. So? What if we can change them? And what if evil isn't evil? What if evil is damaged? In the same way that the yokai view Reiko as evil for trapping them. When what she was doing came out of her own treatment and isolation. Huh, alright, okay. A deal for after. Cool, okay. And gives us something close to like a narrator's perspective as well. Via Yanko. Okay, hello. Let's actually resolve them. This way we get to see what happens when we actually try to release a yokai. Yeah. Nah. Yokai fight. Hey, we're doing it. Hey. Hey. Oh. I like this track. Okay. Okay. And breath. And the name is released and given to that one. And in doing so, we get to see the source of the yokai itself, right? As it remembers its identity. Ah. And we meet Reiko, who is Chihaya. Hi, Chihaya. Not a little bit. Yeah. Who's that voice? Ah. Reiko. A friendship? Oh, and she waited. And waited and was never called because Reiko died. Seasons pass. Oh. Yeah, a taste of companionship. And desperation kicks in. And clarity is reached. Hishigaki. Okay. Mending bonds and freeing people from their connection to someone who has died. I say people, I mean yokai, but does it matter? That's one of the questions, isn't it? Hello. Didn't seem like it. I didn't get mean vibes at all. Again, that resigned stoicism, resigned peace. Okay. Ah, the ones from the memory. Sure. An event. He ate watermelon. Ooh. That's pretty. That is a very emotional ED. After credits? Yep, a few seconds. Okay, so they're previews. Okay. So love across boundaries. Cool. This makes me think that we should probably avoid watching previews in the future because that just spoiled the entire plot of the next one. Not that that's like the worst thing. It's still going to be interesting, I'm sure, and I'll we're just going to watch episode 1 today because there's going to be a lot to talk about. Again, setting up the broad strokes. But it seems like probably a good idea to avoid the previews in the future. So I'll just stop after the ED in the future. Unless people let me know if there are specific episodes where I should watch the preview or whatever, but we'll see. Ooh, interesting. Interesting first episode. Pretty much what I expected. Better looking than I expected, which is cool. Definitely shows its age, but that's not a horrible problem. It also had a lot of interesting things. OP's pretty cool. Got lots of lines that we don't necessarily know the meaning of, but are introspective and philosophical and thoughtful and stuff. Various scenes like this one where he closes his eyes, becomes blue. His grandmother appears in the background behind him, stands, and when he opens his eyes, she's gone, but there are ripples. The effects that she caused are still existent in the world, right? That's a perfect explanation of the story as far as I'm concerned. And we got our what we can take as, I assume, a core moral, an overarching core moral as well, but we'll get into that. Okay. So, Natsume, we meet him. We meet him in media res, running from a yokai. Perfect. And we get the yokai's voice over him. The first person POV immediately putting us into his perspective. Light at the end of the tunnel. Escape. Run, run, run. And some pretty cool cuts throughout. There's one in particular that's like a pathway. I think it's a bit later. We'll find it. And the giant one-eyed monster. That's not the same one-eyed like yokai with the horns, is it? That's on some of the art. It's not the same one, I don't think. I don't think so. Actually, hold on. Let me look at the art again, because there is something that I noticed that I want to check. Because I think there was a mark on one of the characters. Yeah. Yeah, what's up? What's up with that? I'll editing me, do the thing. Put it here. You see the okay, well this has both of the things that I was just talking about. The masked one-eyed character with the big smile and the two horns. Similar hair color and stuff to the big monster that we see here, but I'm not sure. And then the guy standing next to that character has the mark on his cheek. It looks like the mark that Reiko had in the flashback, but I think hers was higher and a little lighter. So maybe not. Maybe I'm picking up on something that I shouldn't be. Yeah, it's higher. That's unrelated. Okay. Unless it is related and I'm just... Alright. Characters. There are a lot of them. And we only see just a handful, right? See this cowish person who I think we saw being beat up by Reiko in the flash through. There's that one. Big dude. Kangaroo person. Really cute cat girl thing. Or fox girl or something. Yeah, lots of cool monsters. Lots of cool character designs. And somber expressions that sit between expressions. Impassive almost. Interesting. So he hides his actual reasons for doing things, and it seems like yokai don't approach him as much when he's around other people, which is maybe helpful, but also hurtful because, you know, he can't ever explain to people what the hell is going on with him. So he's a bit of an outcast, because of course, he's different, and he is genuinely different, but he's different in a way that's special and valuable and a talent, right? But he views it as a burden. That's a pretty classic starting point for a character. Character with a special skill who views it as a burden. Totes. Especially when that special thing is something that ostracizes them from the rest of society or distances them or makes them hard to understand for other people. Yeah, so we get all this exposition in context of an action sequence, which is pretty fun, I have to say. It keeps up the energy during doing this exposition, which is really important because we need to know this stuff about our character. This shot is pretty cool. Let's see, does that one green bush? Yeah, there it is. So it is a loop. It's just a bit of a long one. And then we get just background zoomed in and fuzzy blurred. This is actually a pretty cool effect. I think it works kind of surprisingly well for as simple and low budget as just motion blurring the fuck out of everything is, because it's cohesive. Like, we feel like we're actually jogging and jarring through the scenario because it's coherent where the blur is going and we can understand what's going on. It's jarring, but it makes sense as we make our way to a shrine, which we immediately understand is a safety place, and we immediately understand that we couldn't get there in time. Fuck. Starts being called Reiko. He's not Reiko. The fuck? She wants something returned, and we find out what. It'll be a bother if your name is called. If name is called, you're under command. Okay, great. Links us into classical mythology, demons, devils, etc. I don't know if that's the mythology around yokai, but I'm going to assume it is. Great. Perfect. Gives us a starting point for understanding. And he fights back, and he's good at it. Her size is nothing compared to his super spiritual strength. That's neat. Is that spiritual strength genetic? Like, is it implied that it comes from the family, or is it from, like, the soul or something? I could see us tying spiritual strength into unshakability or internal peace. I don't know. All right, we fade out to flashback, and things are weird, doing things to accommodate guests, right? To accommodate yokai, and his parents don't see them. And they find him weird and creepy. So he learns very quickly to shut down the side of him that can see these things, to not talk about it, to not bring it up, to hide it, to keep it repressed. Okay. That's a starting point. It's right there. Okay, and then there's this scene. This is really cool. I wrote down the timestamp for it, but we already hit it, so whatever. So, yokai's there. Right? And we wipe it as he moves past. This is great. It creates that self-doubt, right? We go from his perspective to theirs, so we understand how jarring it is, how weird, how impossible. It's pretty neat. It's looking right at us. What is? Our son is fucking crazy. Unless those were already people who he was living with. Unknown. Okay, seal has been broken. It's Nyanko. We figure it out pretty quickly because it's way too over the top, right? The cut back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and it's the equivalent of the exact scene that you see. Child is downstairs. Giant scary shadow appears upon the stairway, creeps down. It's the cat, right? Same thing, same situation. Build up, build up, build up, build up. You build up too much, we know you're gonna undercut, especially with these zooms. Yeah. Meow. I'm actually really surprised they didn't include like a sound effect for the gag, because one fits. You do it right here. Meow. Right after the squeak of the windows. But no, we just hold it for the humor, and then it's the the snort that is the trigger to go from shock to humor. It's pretty great. All right, and then Kit Kat bursts forth in an explosion of debris, and then morphs partially into the Okami, right? Or is that not here? Is that later in the house? I think it's later in the house. Yeah, for sure. The cat doesn't go intimidating at this point at all, because he's trying to bait him. Fucking cat. I don't like the cat's eyes. But as we moved along, I started to find the cat funny. All right, he exposits about Reiko, which is super important. Just like she was able to see yokai, the humans around her could not. No one was able to understand her. She was always alone. Always, always. Emphasis on that. Alone, alone. And so, she went around confronting the yokai, making deals, trapping them in the Book of Friends. But was she? What was her reason for doing that? It doesn't seem like it. It seemed like she was reaching out, intentionally, to make actual friends. And it seems like her death is the thing that prevented that and is now causing the yokai to go crazy. That they were desperate for connection, just as she was. That she had to reach out across the boundary beyond humanity to connect because she was different, because she found herself in between worlds. And they, being yokai, couldn't connect to anything but her, right? Interesting. What we saw in this scene with Hishigaki was delight at becoming a follower. You're my follower now. If I call your name, you have to come when I call. And Hishigaki is delighted by that. It's the waiting that gets to Hishigaki, not being called. And that's only a problem. Like, Hishigaki, we can assume, was a fairly close to immortal spirit before Reiko arrived, right? But had never had experience with connection, and seemed to be a spirit of a grave, or like a shrine or something. And so, like a lonely, isolated spirit, desperate for connection. But not desperate until she knew what connection was, right? And Reiko gave her that, and in doing so hurt her. Bittersweet. Almost everything seems bittersweet. Every action seems to have repercussions that are impossible to predict. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so like his grandmother, he is isolated. Unlike his grandmother, he wants to go a different direction with it. Alright, wind blows. Nyanko is gone. We meet this family member, who's not actually family member, Toko-san. Welcome back, Takashi-kun. Toko-san, I'm home. What's wrong? Your face is all pale. Okay, she's really doting, which is sweet, but annoying. We'll see how that occurs as we move along, but she's sweet. We'll leave it at that for now. We don't know his relationship to her, just that she's kind of family, but not. People who are tangentially related. She's noticing all the things about him and is pushing a little too hard, honestly, because he does have secrets he wants to keep, right? So you can tell me about anything, you don't need to hold back, and this is the problem, right? As much as he would love to connect to her on that level and be able to explain the supernatural things that he experiences on a day-to-day basis, he can't. And he's learned that he can't because he's tried in the past and been ostracized before it. He has what seems to be a good relationship with this woman and doesn't want to fuck it up by being like, yeah, I was just battling ghosts, just the norm, whatever. could cause some bumps in their relationship. Okay, and this is all pretty clearly shown to us by the shadow of the awning being over his eyes as he turns, and then his expression as he actually enters the next room and closes the door is just like, gouache. Okay, where is Nyanko? Because Nyanko appears and, like, explodes. Once lived here, right? Because of it, she was shunned by others, right? Because of her gift, and looks for the thing. Okay, and then that leads me to the big thought, which is, people who are different or have difficulty relating often become outcasts. Being an outcast causes people to be alone and act out sometimes, and that acting out can cause pain to others. Therefore, how do you solve this problem? By accepting people from the outset, right? That's simple, right? You could also say that people who are ostracized often find themselves needing control over other people, or sentient entities in this case, and that can cause those sentient entities pain. You can give them that control by accepting them into society and trying to understand how they are different than you without judgment. Okay, the flip side of that is that yokai are inevitably different, ostracized, marginalized, separate from humanity because they are voiceless and unseen. Humans don't see them, and so they're treated like shit and ignored, right? Natsume can flip the whole cyclical pain-causing cycle on its head by attempting to understand yokai through their names, through the flashbacks that we'll probably get when he releases them, and then learning and growing from those, as he does when he thinks about the manju, the steamed buns, which he would have only known about probably from the memory of Reiko, right? So he can flip the whole thing on its head by going around and trying to actually befriend and release on their own terms all of these yokai, making them friends for realsies and accepting them for what they are, as well as acting as a bit of an intermediary between them and our world and vice versa, right? A bit of an avatar almost. I know that's a weird place to go with this, but it does make sense, doesn't it? As a conduit for the spirit realm. Yeah, I think it makes perfect sense. And of course, Avatar is based has its basis in traditional Chinese and Japanese mythologies as well. Kind of. Sort of. Kind of. Not really. Okay, so he does find the book. It looks different than the books on the covers, but that is fine. And in it is calligraphy in innumerable different hands. You can tell by the different like styles and line thicknesses and brush strokes and types of inking and such. Each one being a name, each one reminiscent of like a totem that you would put on a shrine, and the cloud and Nyanko. And I want to see this sequence where Nyanko half henshins into Okami form because I think it's at 24 FPS and I think it's really cool. Holy shit, look at that. Wow. Wow. It's pretty fucking neat. That initial portion of the morph is really cool. Going from this chibi, rounded, smooth aesthetic that's ultra cartoony, ultra simplified, to actually like gaining hair and widening out the facial features and like distorting in a weird, nonsensical way. That's really cool. You can also tell that the staff that worked on this worked on Spice and Wolf. You can really, really tell, right? You can really tell. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the cut of the major cuts of Horo, the major cuts of Horo transforming into a wolf are by the same person. I'm going to guess that they probably are. Well, rip. Never mind. Not only can I not find this, but I also can't find the cuts from Spice and Wolf. So rip. If you know who did the creature transformations in Spice and Wolf and or who did this, I would love to know because it's pretty neat. Okay, and then dealing with normalcy and then dealing with Cat. Cat's a little bit annoying. And then this is very annoying. Wait, where was it? Pretty sure that's meant to be a cat fart, which is kind of gross. Whatever. You're just a cat. No, he isn't, but yes, he is. So, playful relationship with a mildly antagonistic sidekick character played by the guy who plays Dusty Attenborough, so from one sidekick to another. Also, that's kind of crazy that is Dusty Attenborough. It's ridiculous. Okay, so, book is delicate. This character's named Madara. Huh. So that's why they're searching for her, because they want to be free. And then we hear a very spooky voice, and it's a spooky monster creature, and then we're on for the chase. It's bad. It's bad. I love the acceleration in this shot as she grows closer. And it's also, yeah. So it's smooth going from here through. There's no cut. But then here, we get closer, and then we cut. Boom. It's not really a cut, it's a fade over 3 frames. That's actually really interesting. Like a 2-part zoom. Kind of similar to doing a double take. Click, click. But different. It's neat. Alright, so the chase begins. Off we go. Running time. Hiding time. Give it to me. And Natsume, of course, realizes that this Kit Kat has bad things planned. Bad things planned. So Kit Kat transforms into a wolf. We don't do the full henshini thing. We just wipe it with smoke. But it's a good-looking wolf creature. It's very scary. Completely, now that it's in power, it's just like, yeah, I don't care. I'm the worst. And doesn't recognize that Natsume is actually super spiritually powerful and can bop him. Awesome. So, our boy. Very powerful. Nice shot. Nice scene. It's got a vibe to it, you know? For this moment. So, he wants to hold on to his connection to his grandmother. He also wants to understand the yokai. He wants to make a difference. He wants to understand Reiko. And understand himself. And he wants to return the names. He's told by Nyanko that that is futile and not worth it. He does it anyway. That's pretty neat. And immediately switches from complete lack of trust to complete trust. That's an interesting trait. A willingness to trust other characters when they haven't demonstrated trustworthiness. It's an important trait in a particular type of character who bonds other characters, and it's a critical trait in a protagonist who turns their enemies to their side. Does that make sense? Right? Like, there are a couple kinds of protagonists. One is the kind that just goes through and crushes their enemies. You can think of Guts from Berserk. part of that is because of the nature of his enemies, right? They're monsters. They're awful. He has to crush them. And then the other kind of protagonist is the hero who turns other people, who upon fighting this person, they're changed by that person. Gon is something like this. I would say that JoJo protagonists are hugely like this, a lot, big time. From my understanding of it, characters like Luffy are like this as well. I think that he battles each member of his crew before they actually become a member of his crew. It's a common thing. But to make it work, you have to have a character who's super, almost irrationally willing to overlook the flaws in previous actions of other characters in order to accept them and welcome them. And given the nature of the story and the broad strokes that we've painted out, that acceptance and welcomingness built into Natsume seems crucial to the story. Like core. So he wants to give the names back. And there's another thing to it, which is that he takes on a familial responsibility. This is about family, and it's about responsibility. He could not do this. He could follow Nyanko's advice. He could just divorce himself from the world of spirits and pretend it doesn't exist, but the knowledge of it means that he must, and the bond with Reiko. So we end up setting up a whole bunch of different strings that tie him to this book and tie him to this narrative. It's not just one motivation, it's a complex of motivations. And I think that's important and really cool, because it means that his core identity is going to be more resilient against different types of conflicts, whether they come, whatever angle they come against, in a way that will make sense and won't just feel like plot armor. He can tap into different sets of his motivations to answer different things that question those motivations, right? I think that makes sense. I think that's cool. Like, what happens when he meets a spirit who doesn't want to be friends with him, who isn't fixed by being released? I don't know. But we can think of innumerable types of stories that can be done with that. If its problem exists, problem is strong enough emotionally to create yokai mad. Fix yokai, right? That's a super strong narrative loop. Speaking of narrative loops, let's talk about Precure. I'm sorry. I'm not actually joking though. It might seem like a joke, but it's not. Precure is the most recent truly episodic show that I've watched in a long time. It's truly episodic, right? Monster of the week, core formula, repeated over and over. My favorite season of Precure is Heartcatch Precure for a number of reasons, one of which is, of course, Umekoshi's incredible character designs. The just general quality of the animation and art is fantastic. I love the music. I think the characters are some of the best characters Precure has to offer. The main is voiced by Nana Mizuki. Like, the list goes on. Heartcatch is amazing. You should watch it. But the thing that makes Heartcatch work more than anything else, beyond the cool trappings, is the core narrative loop. Because the core narrative loop matters. It's what determines how the episodic adventures go and how interesting they are. The core narrative loop of Precure, of Heartcatch Precure in particular, is quite similar to this. Here's the core narrative loop of Precure. Every human being has a heart flower. Okay? It's a symbol. It's a symbolic flower that lives in your heart. And the type of flower that it is matters via Hana Kotoba. Okay. There are bad people. They want to make the world into a desert. When people get sad or they get emotionally compromised in some way, if they're jealous or grieving or angry or whatever, right? Then their heart flower starts to wilt, and that opens the door to the bad people turning their heart into a desert and making them into a monster. They capture the person, and then they turn their spirit into an awful monster that the Precures have to fight. And the monster goes off on a rampage. Right? Then the Precures fight it and deal with whatever the core thing that actually started the Heartflower wilting, and then they fix it. That's the whole narrative loop every single episode of Precure, period. Of Heartcatch Precure, period. Some random side character who doesn't matter at all is given a moment in the spotlight. They experience something that causes them harm. They get all sad about it. Bad guys see their Heartflower wilted, turn them into a giant monster. Precures arrive, Precures fight it. Precures purge the bad emotions by fixing the core underlying problem. Yay, victory. It's kind of the same thing, right? In a way. It's the same narrative structure. There's a yokai, yokai mad for reasons related to Reiko. We can find out about ourselves by going and fixing those. We can find out about Reiko by going and fixing those, blah, blah, blah. Fix those. The yokai either dissolves into nothingness or becomes more friendly and stops causing ripple effect problems on the world. Check one off the list. Perfect. Perfect. It's ongoing, it's repeatable, it's serializable, and it's solid. It's a good emotional context that you can fit almost any story structure, like any Aesop, any moralistic story into, and you can be really creative with it because they're spirits. They don't have to be bound by human laws, necessarily. All that they have to do is be relatable, right? And then that's the core thing. Show us that we humans can relate to yokai. If we can relate to yokai, we can relate to each other. If we can relate to each other, we can stop individuals from being ostracized. If we can stop individuals from being ostracized, we can prevent the ripple effects that lead from people being angry and isolated and alone. The world becomes a better place, and the ripples that we make are positive ones. That's a cool start for a story. It's a cool place to start. I like it a lot. Okay, a little bit more to go. He promises to give Nyanko the book at the end. Oh yeah, the whole thing is that he has to be able to forgive people and welcome them into his party the moment that they stop being antagonistic toward him. So Nyanko holds this one off while he goes after the other, and we get a really cool fight scene, I think. I don't know how common these are going to be over the course of the series. This is pretty neat, though. I wonder who animated it. And showing this whole thing as reflections is kind of cool. Calling the thing, doing the spiel. It's a cool fight scene, especially with the eye looming there. Twisting and jumping. Yeah, lots of eyes coming straight up into the camera. Wow, very cool. Snatched. All right. We do it. We pull it. We discover the ritual. And it's gorgeous. That the calligraphy streams out from it as he blows is amazing. That we use that as the opportunity to wipe through to the history of the spirit itself. Spirit of a little shrine. And hear the story of meeting Reiko. Some kind of sad, lonely spirit. And even here, Reiko is alone as well, ostracized. But she carries her bat. I do wonder what the taped things on her bat are. Are they like totems or something? Also, she doesn't have her bat when she walks up. Yeah, I don't know what they are. Those patches? I don't know if this is just like an animation thing, that they just didn't include it, or if this actually means something. Because she doesn't have her bat on her, right? It's not in her left hand. Her left hand is holding a bag that's too small to contain it. It's not in her right hand. Her right hand is held up in one finger. It's obviously not gripped in her teeth or like strung down her leg or anything. So it's not there. Either she has hammer space or it just doesn't matter. Because we cut to here and we cut back and she's got the bat. Oh, I guess maybe that's after the deal has been struck, so maybe she had time to go and get it from somewhere or something. I don't know. Followers. And someone threw a rock at me. Right. Cast out. And then we get the emotional gut punch. Of this poor monstrous yokai who's actually kind of cute. With this one big eye. Just sitting there being all alone because Reiko never called because she's dead. Big sad. Big mood. And sporkles. And forgiveness. And my dear grandmother's kind-hearted friend, and he understands better than Nyanko does, it seems. Which is pretty cool. Think you can do it? Hell yeah. And off to get steam buns we go. This is a cute little ED. Very somber music. But cute. Okay. Things that I want to know. Reiko's voice actress. Who dat? Who dat be? Who be dat? Sanae Kobayashi. I'm wrong. I really don't know her from anywhere. Okay, cool. I like her voice. Wait, really?
どこで怪我はないの？痛いところは？どうだ？朝のうちにソースとお醤油のラベルを取り替えておいたのさ。大丈夫です。痛いところは？怪我はないの？痛いところは？どうだ？朝のうちにソースとお醤油のラベルを取り替えておいたのさ。怪我はないの？痛いところは？
Really?
朝のうちにソースとお醤油のラベルを取り替えておいたのさ。イエイ。怪我はないの？痛いところは？大丈夫です。
That's really the same voice actress? She's Taiga? That's Ito Miki? Miki Ito? What? I would have never known. Okay. All in all, I like this first episode. I think it's pretty good. It laid the groundwork in pretty much exactly the same way that I expected. In a simple, normal way. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, right? We don't even really have an Aesop in this episode or a specific individual lesson because we're setting the groundwork. It's foundational. I kind of expect that the other yokai that we were kind of fighting, the one that Nyanko kind of dealt with today, is the one that we're going to deal with later, I think. Unless that one wasn't captured by her or something. I don't know. Neat. Oh, no, we know what's going to happen next time. It's the one at the shrine, who has a woman who prays there. Okay, we need to not watch previews, because that spoils things. All in all, I thought this was really good. There are some solid cuts in the first episode. I don't expect that those will necessarily continue to occur at the same frequency or level of quality in the future, because it's the first episode. That's how it goes. Front-loading animation quality is a thing. I'm not expecting godlikeness. I did find the whole thing rather pleasant. I don't particularly love the kind of whitish filter that's over everything, but it's fine. It doesn't matter too much. It just means that the characters look a little bit faded-ish to me. And that's okay. It just looks a little bit old. And that's fine, because it is. It is a little bit old. It stylistically looks a lot like Spice and Wolf in a lot of ways. Not hyper-detailed, but sometimes it is. It mixes it up. Some cool animation scenes, some cool fight stuff, but definitely not the focus. Mix of humor and emotion. Humor didn't really get to me a lot in this episode, but we had a shite load of exposition and just like a lot of ground to cover in this first episode, and I think we did that admirably. I got a pretty good bead on who Natsume is at this point. A bit of an understanding of what this sidekick character is going to be, and the core idea, the core loop is now set. The thing to look out for is, of course, when we break that loop. If we break that loop, I wouldn't expect to do so in this season. I would expect to do so season 3, maybe at most, at earliest. We'll see. But we're introduced, we acquire our power, and we find out what it means. That's everything. Natsume accepts the call to adventure, accepts responsibility for the actions of his grandmother, and makes a clear-cut decision on what he wants to do about those, and why. And his motivations function on multiple axes. That's solid. That's a strong starting point for a strong starting character. Cool. I like it. I like it right now. We'll have to see, after a few iterations of the narrative loop, how we feel. But for now, I'm excited. And I think that's where we're going to leave off for episode 1. So, I've been Teeaboo. This has been Natsume Yuujinchou, episode 1. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have, and I hope to catch you next week when I watch the next one. If you want the next episode a bit of a week early-ish or so, it will be up on Patreon sometime within the next 24 hours of this going live, usually within like 5 to 8 hours, depending on how much stuff I have to do that day. So check that out if you want to. If you want it on the Discord, same deal. And I really hope to see you next week for more Natsume. Peace.